Welcome to another episode of our personal empowerment audio program, Finding Yourself in Paradise. Hi, I'm Michael Benner.
And I'm Steve Snyder, and our program today is on the subject of human potential. Now, we're not talking about what's likely, we're talking about what's possible. And we're not only talking about the individual's potential, but potential of humanity itself. Human potential, humanity's potential, not what's likely, but what's possible.
Of course, all things are possible, and we have on the horizon some pretty scary-looking possibilities as well. Let's deal with those first, and then we can dwell on the positive ones.
Well, it certainly is within the human potential to become extinct.
We can do it.
We can do it. We got it. We've got the means, opportunity, and motive for some people's points of view.
Nature is willing to eliminate what doesn't work, and by that, what doesn't fit in, what doesn't want to harmonize. And that's been humanity, especially in the last couple hundred years, where we've come into cities and gone through first the Industrial Revolution and then the computer revolution, information age and such. And so what we're for is a question we're going to have to ask if we're going to survive, not just the echo collapse of acid rain and global warming, but all of the other problems with pollution and running out of resources and the third world wanting all of the things that we've had all along, not to mention just the gross injustice of this unnecessary extreme poverty in the world. That could easily be eliminated. War and such. Boy, if I had a time machine, Steve, I don't think I'd go very far into the future. I think the next few decades are just going to be amazing in their potential to either go one way or the other. I suppose in some areas things will continue to get worse, and in other areas things will get better, and that's part of the process. But we're talking about overall, and to consider that just 40 years after we saw this planet from another place, those pictures of Earth from the moon, just 40 years have passed, and now it looks like human life on this planet could become extinct.
Well, it remains a possibility, although I think the warning's down from red to orange. I think there were tougher times. There were times when we were more likely to drop bombs on each other of the magnitude that could create a planetary extinction.
I think that's probably true.
I feel like we've rounded the corner in a way on that.
The nuclear thing.
Yeah, and that was the biggest threat, I think, in my lifetime that we've ever experienced about extinction. And of course, whenever you're talking about deficits, you got to look at assets as well, and we do have all these problems going on, and we are heading in bad directions in some areas, but we also have the amazing asset of human ingenuity and human invention and human innovation that we have to take into consideration because, for example, as little as 200 years ago, slavery was an institution that was accepted most of the world around, and now it's a very rare aberration. I think we could do the same thing with war. I mean, war could become an aberration instead of a regular institution within the next couple of hundred years. I don't think that's such a far-out concept.
Well, I think one thing we need to do, at least I'd like to petition our listeners right now to do, is take this out of any political context, as if what we're talking about is a liberal agenda, to end extreme poverty, to end hunger in this world, to work for justice in general, but also to stop war and capital punishment. There's only a handful of nations, including the United States, that still do this. We got to get habeas corpus back into the U.S. Constitution.
Absolutely.
That got lost somewhere in the last 8 years.
It's in the bushes somewhere.
Yeah, that's exactly where it got hidden in the bushes. But I'm with you. I think there is a cosmic wind at our backs.
I feel it too.
I think there is a life force, a vitality, an élan vital that needs to express with such urgency and such passion that life is going to find a way. It's sort of like the lesson that Jeff Goldblum comes up with in Jurassic Park, which is, oh no, the chaos theory they called it. It's like, oh no, you don't understand. Nature will find a way.
Right. There's only females on the island, but nature will find a way. Yeah, and that's, the history of the planet in terms of coming upon the biggest crises and finding a way. Not only will nature find a way, but I think human ingenuity will find a way in so many cases as well. But when we take a look at the potential of beings, The potential to be very, very evil, the potential to be so incredibly, wonderfully good. The range is so enormous within any individual. And it really comes down to, as we've talked about all along, whether you live in the fear or whether you live in the love. The degrees of those things, of course, are variable, but if you're tending toward living in the fear, you fall into the fear. And if you're tending to live in the love, you rise into the love. And I think that's really the basic choice we make. And parents have a huge amount to do with which one we choose, whether they make us feel like we live in a very safe world or a very unsafe world in the ways that they do that. But bottom line of all of this is the potential of human beings is to be living in a safe world. The potential for human beings is to feel, whenever there isn't actual, real, life-threatening danger, safe all the rest of the time. That's the potential.
I think a couple of things are happening. I think in the last decade or two, there's been a move toward voluntary simplicity and appropriateness. We've tried to back off a little bit and find our balance somewhat as a culture and as a society, even to find what does appropriate mean in science and technology. Is it always more of everything blindly? Or do we reach a point where we say, that's exactly right, that's finely tuned and calibrated, and that is a sustaining system. Wow, that's really smart.
It's like if you put light into a room and then you add another light and another light. And at some point, it'll be way too bright in there. What you need is the exact right amount of light in that room. More is not better. More gets much worse.
Yeah. So this trend toward voluntary simplicity, I think, is a trend toward balance. And now what I see emerging as well is a desire to lead a life of significance. That what replaces 20th century materialism is 21st century, I won't say it's utopian, but it has an aspiration for meaning. More people, I think, than ever, want meaning in their lives. They want their lives to amount to something. They want to leave the campsite better than it was when they found it, right? I know a lot of people, they live through their children. They say, well, that's my sense of having made a contribution. If I could, have a family and have kids and leave them with a little bit of inheritance there at the end to sort of prime the pump and get their life going. I work hard in the factory so they can manage the corporation so that maybe their kids can be philosophers and artists, that kind of vision. But even if you didn't have kids, you could benefit from, at the end of your life, looking back and saying, I think I made a difference. I think I might have helped a few people out along the way.
And it's part of the evolution of humanity that more and more people are able to do that. You see, it's when you have to look outward all the time for danger that you really can't spend much time inside of yourself asking those questions, exploring those parts of yourself that can grow and change and feel significant, do significant things. Significance comes after survival's handled. So for so many people, they're focused outward on survival and doing what they have to do and fighting the fear-based things like the anger and the pain that comes from frustration, that comes from disappointment, that comes from all the things they face in life. They're spending so much time feeling those things and warding or repressing the feelings of those things that they don't spend time thinking about meaning, what's significance, what's my purpose, what's my calling. I don't think too many people historically ever got an opportunity to do that. The priestcraft, the royalty, the wealthy, the artists who had patrons, but most people didn't have an opportunity to do that. Now more and more people have the opportunity, although I don't know more and more are taking advantage of that opportunity.
Well, I think many just don't know what to do with the fear, I'll call it. Now, let's use the F word here. It's the fear, anxiety, the worry of having to face the fact that I did it. I lived the American dream. I have all the stuff that I'm supposed to have, the 2.2 kids and I would have said the station wagon 20 years ago. Who remembers station wagons?
Must be an SUV today.
And the white picket fence and all of that. And I've got all this material stuff. I've got security. I did everything right, and yet there's something missing in here. There's an urge.
Or a loneliness or an emptiness.
Could be negative, an ache, but sometimes it's carries a little tone of melancholia, but it's an aspiration, an enthusiasm, a sense
a dream not yet dead, still flickering somewhere.
Yeah, some sense that I'm here for a reason. Can't really put my finger on it.
But I want to know.
I'd like to wake up to that somehow, that human potential. I mean, we can talk about getting smarter, human potential in terms of, what we're learning about the brain now, neuroplasticity or brain plasticity. The brain, it seems, can now rewire itself on demand, and we're learning how to train the brain. We can grow actual brain matter using the alpha brainwave level, meditation, and inner reflection literally grows the volume of the gray matter in the brain, plus the proliferation of neurons and little blood capillaries to nourish all of that. Einstein's brain really was bigger. I think it's in a museum or something someplace, I swear.
It's actually in a jar at the university.
See, now you would know that.
Yeah, they do keep these things.
So it really was bigger. I mean, there's something to that.
I don't think the actual size of the brain is considered to be as significant as the number of connections between the axons and the dendrites and the neurons. So there are really smart people with smaller physical brain sizes and really not so smart people with larger brain sizes. I think it's what you do with what you got. Size doesn't matter, as the saying goes.
Well, I suspect both things are true,
Yeah.
but the fact that meditation not only revitalizes the body, keeps you healthier, makes you live longer, but also grows the brain.
Yeah, and its ability to do more things. That's the bottom line. And make more connections.
Yeah, says something. Yeah. Something's going on here. So there's that. There's emotional intelligence. There's emotional maturity, learning to manage your feelings, to understand the hurt and the upset in your life, and also to improve the happiness and the joy and the peace of mind in our lives.
And to replace knee-jerk reactions with even-tempered, well-reasoned responses. That could be the biggest change in anyone's life. Your life can change with a single breath. The trick is to know, when to take that breath, Because if you're about to say something stupid and you take that breath instead, if you're about to have an accident and you take that breath instead, if you're about to make a decision based on anger and you take a breath instead, if you can take a breath instead in those critical moments, that could be the most important thing you ever do in your entire life.
Part of discovering and developing our emotional potential as human beings includes seeing the benefits in working together in harmony as a team rather than working apart. Even if we call it independence and self-reliance, there are benefits that you miss when you don't also come together and work as a team. Even a team of leaders is better than no team at all, where job description is clear and people are sharing the responsibilities. That's a wonderful experience to feel like you're all pulling on the same team. But it takes management. Look, even in a marriage, sometimes it feels like you're on opposite teams, and you scratch your head and say, "Wow, how did we get to that? That feeling that we're on opposite teams and somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose." Well, that requires emotional intelligence and maturity. That's another area where we're going to move in terms of human potential.
As well as in the area of physical growth. We're getting taller, we're getting stronger, we're getting faster. We're, physically, the Olympic scores are getting better all the time, and we're going to continue to do that. A lot of it is because of the physical evolution of the being, but a lot of it is because of the mental evolution of the athlete and the figures that do amazing things with dance and movement. The old story back in the 50s where nobody had run a mile in less than 4 minutes in the history of the world, and then Roger Bannister gets it in his head that you can do this thing, and he does it, and now high school kids are doing it. So there's growth in that area. I think the human potential for being stronger, fitter, healthier is amazing. Could you picture a world where the vast majority of human beings understand that junk food's a really pretty bad idea and that, it's an anomaly. Once in a while, people would do something like that. But generally, Or cigarettes is like, oh, I saw one of those once. We can create a world where we eat much more healthy, that cows are used a lot more for milk products for babies than they are for meat, I mean, there's all kinds of wonderful things humans can evolve into, and I think there's a lot of us who are moving in that direction, and there are a lot that aren't. And the answer, I think, is going to come down to not in sheer numbers. Never doubt that a small number of people can change the world, because that's the way it's always happened. I think it's going to come down to finding passionate leaders to take us into the 21st century.
Passionate leaders. Yeah, well, like Kennedy inspiring us to go to the moon, I don't think too many people even considered it or thought about what, the moon? What, you walk around up there, drive a car around there, hit a golf ball? A lot of people today still don't get it. But there is something about looking at the horizon and wondering what's just over that hill. We did a program on curiosity just a couple of weeks ago, or maybe last week, and I think it is innate, this wanderlust that we have mentally, emotionally, physically, and I think spiritually too. If we, or when we, or as we feel safe and relaxed, we come increasingly in touch. Each and every one of us, I say this without hesitation, in this longing, in this appetite, in this urge to be more. I like what the psychologist Assagioli said about the flower turning toward the light, turning toward the sun, as if seeking to know its source. And that's a really beautiful thing. And an ancient idea that humanity in the end is on this great wheel of life for Mandela, and that what we're doing is coming back around again, realizing generation after generation after generation, little by little, very slow evolutionary process, who we really are and what we're really for. And it looks like the brain is up to the task, that the brain is ready to accept the direction, the rewiring necessary to do remarkable things. I think mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, it's time for us, at least some of us, to start looking at the impossible. In as many areas as possible, look at the impossible and say, this needs further study. Maybe there is something we can do here.
Well, we've been both so moved by Paul Simon's words. The thought that life could be better is woven indelibly into our hearts and our brains. I think it is part of humanity. And to look at problems and want to solve them, to look at challenges and want to, defeat them or overtake them or master them. It is part of who we want to be. I think we are a seed that is growing. Entropy exists, but we're not in that stage right now. We're in the grow, success, be fulfilled stage. And I think that movement in that direction for us as a species, we're certainly not on our way down. There's much more to accomplish. And I think as individuals, I think the most important thing that more and more individuals will accomplish, the larger and larger percentage, will be to wake up, simply to wake up to the fact that there's this new you that they are, that there's higher consciousness, there's this waking up to the fact that I'm not my thoughts, I'm not my feelings, I'm not my body, my possessions, they're all cool, but what I am is the guy that's driving the car, not the car, and the one that's aware of all these things. And I think as we do that, then what happens is we see the illusion of all the things we think is fear, and we start to move away from living in fear and start to move toward living in love. And, I know that sounds so hippie, so 60s, like move away from fear and move into love, but really that's the bottom line of it all. And our ego is afraid. Our ego is afraid because it's in the DNA. The paranoid ones were the ones that survived. And so our egos descended from all these people who say, let's if it's not dangerous for sure, it might be dangerous, so let's act as if it's dangerous so we can survive. So it's natural to be enveloped in this fear-based thinking, but the truth is there's very little that's really dangerous. And as we can wake up with one slow, conscious, deep breath, as we could wake up to the fact that this isn't danger, this is an imagination, or this is a worry, or this is just anxiety. As we can wake up and recognize I'm the feeler of those feelings, the thinker of those thoughts, then I think then we take that next huge evolutionary step.
Here's a way to talk about fear to love, I think. The difference between taking and giving. I mean, increasingly, as you indicated a few minutes ago, more and more people are having the experience, and I described it early in the program too, of being satiated. We have every possible convenience, all the gadgets, the kitchen counter is full, and you got the two cars out in the garage and the beautiful home and the country club. You did all of that. You still have this empty bit, right? You still have this urge or this longing.
And for those people who haven't gotten there yet, you'll still have that empty bit when you get there, unless.
And so it seems some significant number of people are beginning to realize that there is an addiction at play here, that no matter how rich or powerful an individual becomes, they still suffer from not having everything they want. They always want more, and it's never enough. At some point, you've got to detach from that and say, this is a rat race or a treadmill. It's like everybody else's treadmill. It may have a lot more zeros on the end, but it's still, in the end, rather unfulfilling. And increasingly, I think, as we're exposed to that, if not directly with our own success, we have friends, we see what happens. Are these people happy? As some significant percentage, and I say that because I think we're approaching critical mass, some significant percentage of people go, wait a minute. They take a breath. They let go of this idea, take a step back, get the bigger picture, and say, there's got to be something more to life. There really does. Now, I like stuff as much or maybe more than a lot of people. I think we should all have cars that start when we turn the key, and shelter so the roof doesn't leak, and the right to be warm and well fed. I think these are basic human rights. We don't all have to have mansions and Ferraris and stuff. So I like stuff. We just have to be more sustainable and more balanced in the way we manufacture it and use it and dispose of it, and recognize that we've impacted this earth in a significant way in just a couple 100 years. Wham, bam. And we better bring some balance to this equation. It's in our interest. Even a bird knows not to foul its own nest, but a human being will. And so I think there's a whole new value system that's coming in. You could argue by necessity, but I think it's part of just the unfoldment of, well, I did that material thing. I tried that, and I like material stuff, and I'd rather be prosperous than in poverty, right? Even Buddha found out that poverty did not take him closer to God. It was the middle way, the balance, right? Once a prince, that didn't do it. Then a pauper, that didn't do it. He found the middle way. This whole idea of balance, moderation in the Middle East, we see it in all philosophies. Find that balanced way, and that's, we live in the world, but not of it. Enjoy your material things, but go beyond that. When you think of human potential, you're more than a consumer, and you're even more than a producer. You could be a person of real significance. Consider that, as Steve says, as Paul Simon said, that's woven into your DNA. I mean, it's a little scary, right? A little risky, but wow. Timing is everything. As challenging as it is right now, there's enormous opportunity all around us, I think.
Yeah, there is, and there's amazingly significant people doing amazingly significant things right now. But, somebody said the problem is that if you take a look at, socioeconomics and the poorest people being ones and the richest people being tens, the problem is most of the tens would rather be an 11 than to make the thousands of the ones into twos. There are more and more Bill Gateses and Warren Buffetts that are starting to become the all-time greatest philanthropists. But what we really need to do is recognize that having one more of these things I already have 3 of doesn't feel as good as helping somebody who doesn't have very much. It feels way better to give and be of significance to help others than to just add to your collection of stuff. So I'm a big fan of stuff too, I really am, but there's a place at which it feels better to not have more stuff, but to be more significant in what you do with your excess, if you have any. So human potential to be good, to be generous, to be kind, to be loving, boy, I can't even imagine a limit to that. each of us in any given moment have the ability to add happiness to somebody's life by smiling at them or by saying something nice or by complimenting or by being generous or by giving in some kinds of ways. People have no idea that I have no idea that the kind of influence that I have, the kind of impressions I leave, the kind of dominoes that I begin knocking over with everything I do in my life, and how I touch that person touches the next person and touches the next person. You know, I just had an amazing experience the other day. I was at a board of directors meeting in San Diego for this wonderful organization, Quantum Learning Network, that do these programs called Super Camp every summer for kids. And I get home the next day and get an email from an old friend who, the day before, the day I was at that meeting, sent me an email saying, my kid just came home from this thing called Super Camp, you know, and they talked about the speed reading program you invented, and was that your program? They mentioned Steve Steiner. I said, yeah, so this is amazing. And he said, you know, they've been teaching that for 25 years to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of kids. And every one of those kids, although I never met them personally, you know, I touched them with something I created and changed their lives in some wonderful ways. That feels way better than having more stuff. So the opportunity to be significant in giant ways feels great, but I don't think it feels 100,000 times better than being significant to one person. You know, because the feeling is just the same feeling. You know, you help one person, you feel great. You help 100,000 people, you feel great. It's the consciously choosing to do the random acts of kindness that is part of the evolution of our being.
Well, you got like a double dose of grace because you found out about it.
Yeah, that's cooler than anything.
Yeah, lots of times we are of significance to other people in very big ways, or to large groups of people, and what are the chances you ever even find out? You may not even know. Like that movie, Pay It Forward. People say, well, it wasn't the greatest movie, but
it was a real good book.
I was a sucker for the concept. However well the movie may have been done. The whole idea that this kid decided, in response to a junior high school class assignment, that the way he was going to change the world was basically network marketing. He was going to pay it forward, right? You have to do 3 kind things, random acts of unexpected kindness for strangers, and then the beneficiary is required then to do, or not, I mean, you know, or not, but what a nice idea. Didn't we run across an Alice Walker quote about life being like a relay race?
Yeah, it's not an individual race. You go as far as you can and you hand it off to the next person, and you know, it's not going to be done when you leave. You know, the process is unfolding and will continue to do so. And that's one of the coolest things. I think the more we can stop and think about unfolding human potential, like what is possible, where could we go, what kind of world could we live in, the more of us that have the time to do that, because we're safe, we're not worried all the time, we're not anxious all the time. That's the key. Now, that doesn't mean that all of us don't have as many things to be worried about or anxious about. No matter what your life situation, it's never free of problems. You know, we were saying the other day, I just happen to like my problems. You know, the problems I have are fun to solve. You know, like how do I become an even better and better husband? You know, and how can I change the school system even more dramatically tomorrow than I did yesterday? I like the kinds of problems I've created in my life, but I'm not trying to create a life free of problems. I'm becoming a better problem solver.
There you go.
And that's what it's all about for all of us. So the evolution of human beings is not getting all your ducks in a row. It's becoming the duck whisperer, you know.
I think a discussion of human potential like this really needs also to touch on the fascination that people have in many cultures, maybe all cultures, with superheroes. We go crazy for that stuff. We really like, whether it's the Superman and the Batman and the Spider-Man stuff here in America, the masked superhero, the Hulk, the buffed out, strong. What do you suppose a psychoanalyst would have to say about somebody whose room was filled with that kind of stuff? Is it their inferiority complex, or is it possibly a longing inside, a feeling that this is a kind of an allegory or a metaphor for the fact that we all really know we can be more?
Yeah, I think it could be either one. I mean, kids could have something like that in their room because they're afraid of the world they live in and they want to live in a fantasy world of these superhero characters, or they could aspire to the kind of character that Clark Kent has, you know, or to be able to do good and to save damsels in distress. I mean, the superhero itself as an archetype or as a metaphor can be seen from a fear-based or a love-based place, from an admiration or, you know, kind of like, I'm afraid of the world. I wish I lived in a world that had...
Well, what do you think? What do you think for most people?
To me, it represents the seed inside of us to be more, the ability to expand and to take it to another level, to be bigger, greater, faster, stronger, smarter, happier, see better, hear better, smell better, taste better, all that kind of stuff. The vision of being extraordinary, I think, is something that's exciting to most people.
And for extraordinary reasons.
Yes.
Not merely self-interest.
Yes. I mean, there are a lot of human beings, for example, that admire tremendously Mother Teresa. Now, you take why would someone admire someone like she? She didn't make a lot of money, and she wasn't really particularly good looking, and she didn't have any acting talent, but she did have the fact that all of us, every single one of us, wish we could sort of be like that a little bit more, and almost everybody. And I think that says something really special about human beings, is that there is a longing inside of us, not only to be a superhero in terms of faster, stronger, better, but a superhero in terms of healing people and changing people's lives and rescuing people in distress. That's what most superheroes are most famous for, is helping people out of trouble and helping people that are in bad situations get into better situations. And I think, to me, a much greater vision of a hero is Gandhi or Mother Teresa than, Iron Man. But regardless, they both have the same kind of concept, which is help people in distress.
We talked a lot about the mental and the emotional, the physical too. We touched on the spiritual. I think to say that religion is going to have to go through some sort of major transformation and become more inclusive, more harmonious. I'll say it in the other way, less exclusive and conflict-oriented, less my way is the right way and your way, because it's different, has to be the wrong way. There can only be one. That kind of dogma and rigid, fixated, crystallized, a lot of it medieval, actually, hasn't really kept up with the times at all. And our spiritual philosophy should be cutting edge. We should be as modern in our thinking spiritually as we are in science or emotional intelligence.
And you see movement in that direction, away from the dogma, away from the doing it the way they always did it because that's the way they always did it. And there'll always be a core group of people that are continuing to do it all the way everybody always did it. What I'm looking for in terms of the change of human consciousness, the existence of human potential, doesn't mean everybody has to change. It means humanity as a whole has to change.
Yeah, you have the choice to change or not.
Yeah, and that's
all about choice.
It is all about choice, and that's where human potential comes in. If I have no choice, if I don't exercise my choice, which is much the same as not even having any, then I have no potential. I've already got my potential. I'm living. If I don't exercise choice, I'm going to do the same thing I did last time, and the same situation comes up again. I don't have the potential to be any better unless I exercise choice. How do I exercise choice? I have to become the chooser. To exercise choice, what I have to do is get out of being in whatever I'm in and step back and see the big picture and become the chooser. And to say, I have the choice in this situation where I don't like my situation. I have the choice of doing a whole bunch of different things. I'm not stuck with either this or that. I've got all kinds of opportunities. And in bad situations, I need to make better choices. But I think even maybe more important is in normal situations, in everyday life situations, to stop and say, hey, I'm a chooser. I can do this thing that I did the same way I've always done it. Like I can come home from work and I could peck my wife on the cheek and go, I'll turn on the TV the same way I always have. Or I could decide tonight I'm going to bring flowers and I'm going to do something really sweet and I'm going to take some time and just tell her how wonderful I could decide to do something different tonight. I could choose to do something different in the same situation I did something the same last time.
Break the routine.
That's the key.
Yeah, a nice tip, don't turn your lights on as it gets dark one afternoon. That's always nice. We live outdoors a lot here in Hawaii, so we're more inclined to do that anyway. But, I've lived most of my life in Los Angeles and Detroit, and starts getting dark outside, you flip on the lights, you don't think much about it, right? Saves energy too, but I'm talking about the state of mind that it induces or allows if you just, the biorhythms of my ancestors, we're unwinding. My wife and I have, porch time. Mm-hmm. Where we watch the sun go. We hope the sun go down.
Yes, it wouldn't do nearly as good a job without you.
And that means I have to be busy at other times of the day, and I got to get organized to schedule that kind of relaxation in. But
Sun's not real flexible about its schedule.
it's important now. It's very, very important. And so that's part of my potential, is to schedule times to relax and appreciate. I mean, what's the point otherwise? What's the point of working so hard if you never get a chance to appreciate it?
Absolutely. Scheduling time is essential, and I think we've scheduled just enough time for an audio journey.
Yes,
So
indeed.
I think we ought to do a human potential fulfilling audio journey.
Let's look around inside and see where it feels like more, like I could have more.
Be more, create more,
do more.
Imagine more. More. That's a nice theme, more.
And not just more of the old stuff, but more, different, better,
more choices.
Yeah, more choices. That's it. More flavors in the ice cream store.
That's right. It's not just chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla anymore, folks.
Close your eyes and relax.
And take a deep breath. And as you release, feel your body unwind as you slow down your mind and find a place of peace. Tension, anxiety, confusion, release, relaxation, calmness, and a sense of inner peace.
Without the deep peace of relaxation and feeling really, really safe, it's impossible to really know yourself, much less to dream of being more, being smarter, more creative mentally, innovative and inventive, dreaming up new ideas, emotionally, being more, catching your anger, managing your anxieties, promoting the qualities of love and peace in your life. Physically, to be more vital, to be healthier, aspire to this in these levels of mind, safe and relaxed. Feel the life force in your body, the vitality. Feel the energy, the desire to express out into the world, coursing through your body as you reflect upon your potential as a human being.
And in this state, you can do more. You can make things better. And what's more, you can make better things. You can take what you do and find ways to improve, get out of the rut and into the groove, and you can also take things you've never done before and open up your mind and explore. Your potential is far greater than you've ever imagined. In fact, it's as great as you can. So stretch the power of your imagination, your potential. What's possible? That's the plan. Not what's likely, not what's certain, but what's at the far reaches of what could be. What is your potential? What is even remotely possible? Look as far as you can see. What could you become? What could you create? What ideas could you have that everyone would say, that was great? What can you solve? What can you enjoy? What kind of talent can you employ? Imagine being better than ever and moving toward better still. Imagine being the best you've ever been, but not as good as you will. The process is unfolding, releasing, not holding, creating the life that you choose. Your mind, your amazing mind, is such a wonderful tool for you to use.
One of the most remarkable aspects of exploring human potential is the way in which your idea of the self changes. And this is important because self-interest will always be a motive. That's not a bad thing, self-interest. But what happens when you pursue the longing deep within to truly know yourself is the nature of that self evolves from alienated and separated and a you or me mentality, slowly and gradually and sometimes in pretty big leaps and bounds to a more inclusive and unitive you and me self-interest. You see, self-interest isn't the problem. It's believing you're all alone and separated. That's the illusion. To come on out and play. To be part of the community of human beings all around you. The family of man. To the exclusion of no one in this world. This is to begin to understand the higher self you find in paradise.
So you think you're alone, but that's an illusion. And you think you're in danger, and that causes confusion, but what's true is that you're connected and safe as you can be. And with your eyes closed in this paradise place, you can live quite amazingly. See, with the danger eliminated, it's just not here. Your mind can be focused and your mind can be clear and your emotions can be managed and calm and clear. It's like water. You can see so deeply into the fear and it becomes not so frightening anymore. You can explore anger. You can explore hurt. You can explore the feelings that cause you pain. You can explore them all in this amazing state. You have everything to gain. Because as you explore the negative feelings coming from this place of feeling safe and clear, then feeling this way replaces inside you the feeling you had of fear. Facing fear in a normal state is really scary to do, but in this peaceful paradise place, you'll find it's real easy for you. Just look at what you're afraid of, and from this experience, just explore. You can release some of that fear and have it nevermore. You can. It's true. You can become a better you. All you need to do is choose. Choose. One deep breath, that's all it takes to avoid a whole lot of mistakes. One deep breath is all it takes to do what you need. Be genuine, not fake. Be true to who you really are. You are a being that emanates light. You're a star.
So commit yourself to being the best that you can be in one or two or several specific areas of your life. Discern those by following your heart as much or even more than your mind, especially if you find yourself confused and trapped in cyclical thinking. Go to the feelings in your body and trust those feelings and commit to that. Follow your heart. To find your soul, you must follow your heart. And to know that heart, to know your emotional nature, you must calm the emotional nature. Then you can see into the waters. You can see what's reflected on the surface. Once those waters are calm and mirror-like, manage your emotional nature, to follow your heart, and then go do something nearly impossible. Stretch the envelope. You know what I mean? Reach as far as you can and then just a little bit more, and then put the goal just beyond that a little bit. I bet you'll surprise yourself. You know, life in many ways is like a muscle. Your dreams, in the same way, you got to use it or lose it. You got to stretch those dreams. You got to repeat those reps. Keep dreaming those dreams and move toward those dreams. Even if you fall short, at the end of the day, you can look back and say, well, we did it. We gave it our all. Wasn't that exciting? You'll never have to suffer the anxiety or the dread of saying, I wonder what would have happened if I had followed my heart. There's great satisfaction in saying, you know, most of the time I really did give it my all.
Yeah, living up to your potential never means doing what everybody else does, too. Living up to your potential means finding the true, authentic you. And you can, but you must let go of stress and trust that in this place, in this paradise space, the higher self comes through. Be conscious and choose to be in this place and manage from that higher you. And now, as it feels comfortable for you, bring your awareness back to the place you are in space and time and this state of wonderful alpha mind, and prepare to return to wide awake with the first deep breath that you'll let yourself take. So take that deep breath and bring yourself back to wide awake.
Yeah, life is growth. You know, it is healing, it is learning, it is expanded awareness and higher consciousness. But in a word, it's growth. And so let's initiate it and promote it and get it on. Why be victims of growth when we could get on that pony and ride, accelerate it? And I like the phrase self-initiated growth. It makes sense to me. I'm going to consciously accelerate my own evolution.
Yeah, come to the website and help yourself. That's self-initiated growth. And if you haven't been to the website in a while, to focusedpassion.com, it's new, it's changed and different, and got all kinds of exciting stuff. We still have, of course, the send one to a friend gadget, so any program you listen to that you like, that you think somebody else would like, just send it to them. Just actually give us their email address and we'll send it to them, is the way it really works. And we make it as easy as possible for you to do this. So come back and check out the button to check out the unpurchased podcasts, because there's probably a whole bunch of subjects in there that you might be listening to right now to help you solve your problem or heal your heart.
And as always, be gentle, love life, and take care of each other. For Steve Snyder, this is Michael Benner. Aloha from Maui.